just launched with our website now, thesuccessseries.com. If you want to be a guest on the show, want to join the community, or just want to check us out, go on the site, add your information there. Awesome, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Awesome. Thank you all for coming here today. I know it's hard on a Tuesday night to take some time off during the week, but we wanted this gathering to take place here tonight. First, we want to thank Billy and Arthur for letting us use this place. Super nice, super kind of them, so thank you guys.
What an incredible spot.
And so Josh and I have been friends for quite a bit, but our shared space is spirituality, specifically Kabbalah, and we come from different backgrounds. I was born into Kabbalah, and Josh discovered it later in life after many successful businesses. And I kind of went away from it for a bit and came back to it. And so we wanted to open it up and talk about spirituality. I host a podcast as well, where the worlds of business and spirituality merge. I have different guests from various fields that talk about how spirituality has both influenced their business and in their lives. So we want some of you guys to share your experiences that you're going through today, whether it's challenges, whether it's exciting things that are happening at work, but feel free to ask questions and interject when you feel like it. Josh is going to give a little intro on who he is. I'll share a bit about myself, and then we'll open it up to you guys. So, Josh?
Thanks, Damon. Thanks, everyone, for coming. This is awesome. I think this is the third or fourth time that we've done this. It continues to grow, so let's continue on that path. This is great. And thanks again, Billy and Arthur, for hosting us here. Incredible vocational. So by way of quick background on me, grew up in New York. My original path in life was to be a rock star. So I started a band when I was 11 years old. We were signed to a record deal when I was 14. That's around the time I started producing records as well. And from 14 to 20, I thought that was going to be my path in life. And everything I was doing, I was still going to school and doing well in school, but everything I was really doing was geared towards success of music, success of the band. And so from 14 to 20, 6 years in, had not really progressed after we'd gotten signed. We'd had a couple of bubbles that felt that we were moving in the right direction, but we weren't at Blink 182 status, to put it adequately. That was kind of our era at the time. As I was coming into 20 years old, and I was in college and trying to make decisions around what my future would look like, I was frustrated with the fact that I felt like in order for me to truly make it at the time in music, in a band, I needed to be beholden to the whim of the record labels, right? So I didn't feel like I had control over my destiny, and that didn't feel right to me. I just a comment on the spirituality, and we'll come back to it. I've always sort of been a grounded person and had connection to spirituality and thought about things deeply and wanted to understand reasons as to why certain things were the way they were, but never truly had a framework until much more recently, and we'll come to that in a moment. So anyway, 21 years old, I make a brash decision midway through college that I'm going to completely shift focus out of music being the future of my life, professionally speaking, to being in the investment business. And there's obviously story as to how that decision was arrived at. And to make the long story short, coming out of college, that became sort of at the drop of the dime the direction that I took. Coming out of college, it was 2009. It was the Great Recession. I was looking at potentially getting jobs in the financial industry and was offered one at Morgan Stanley that was then retracted because they went on a hiring freeze. And so I said, all right, what am I going to do now? And so I ended up starting a hedge fund right out of college and was not able to raise much money, so raised a very small amount of money from friends and family and started a hedge fund, a credit fund, in a very niche area of the market, investing in small companies. Our first strategy around small public companies, and then I think the key to the business, and we experienced a tremendous amount of success very, very quickly. just to put it in perspective, I started the business at 22. By the time I was 23, we had moved from a small $1,000 a month office in my hometown to a large office in New York City, had probably 12 or 13 employees at the time, was already making millions of dollars personally within a year or 2 years time frame. So that came very quickly. And from there, ended up growing out the business from the initial strategy to several different credit strategies, a real estate strategy, etc. We were able to build, a foundationally strong business, I think, at that time, because we spotted a niche in the market, particularly investing interesting credit-oriented structures in small public companies that nobody else was doing from an institutional platform-based perspective. And so there was a lot of high net worth activity in the space and individual investors. And so the idea was, let's create the platform in this space. And we were able to do that very quickly. And so we had a very significant amount of success. Eventually, at the peak of the hedge fund business, we had about 75 employees, managed roughly $500 million, and over a 10-year period that I ran that business in New York, we invested about $2 billion worth of equity capital into, I think it was almost 2,000 transactions. So very, very active. At the end of 2018, a bunch of things were going on, but to kind of simplify the story, I determined that it made sense to sort of exit the credit element of the business at that point. And there was a bunch of different reasons why, and there was a lot of challenge and heartache around that decision. And I decided to basically sell off the businesses individually, the different credit businesses, shut down altogether our original public credit business that we'd founded the hedge fund upon, because the arbitrage was no longer there. There was a bunch of regulatory noise in space. And we had a real estate business that was sort of budding. My brother, who was my first employee, had kind of branched out to start that business, and it was budding. And so I said at that time, this was 2018, I was kind of thinking, what do I do next? And what do I dive my head into instead of running the entirety of the platform? And so I dove into the real estate investment business. So that was about 6 years ago at this point. And at this juncture, we've done about $500 million worth of commercial real estate deals that we own across the U.S. in 9 different markets, really from almost zero about 6 years ago. So continuing to build that platform, and it's been interesting times in the past couple of years. Kabbalah and spirituality really came to me about 6 years ago. My wife, Linda, had studied Kabbalah and been a very active, participant in Shabbat dinners and classes, etc., for about 12 years in New York City. And when we first got together, about a year into our relationship, she said, you know what, you should really try a Kabbalah 1 class. And she said, I feel like, you kind of have a lot of the attributes that they teach naturally, but just try it and see if it resonates with you. And I actually tried it, and it immediately resonated with me, but it kind of then like fluttered. I guess, at the time my vessel wasn't like fully open to embrace it for whatever reason, probably a bunch of ego in the way still. And then I stayed connected to it, and then basically like a year after that, I said, you know what, I'm going to try the Kabbalah 1 course again, because David Guillen has one on Kabbalah1.com. And so I did it again. And this time, for some reason, I felt it and connected to it in a completely different way. And it completely has changed my life. It's changed my perspective on everything. It's opened up the possibility to access answers and understand the reasons why certain things happen the way they do, understand how and what tools I need to rely on to access fulfillment, because the ride for me has been very interesting, a ton of ups and downs, and the framework has just been so powerful. And so at this point, I continue to study very, very deeply and be involved. And to me, it's basically work, spirituality, and family are the 3 cornerstones of my life. And not one of them could be replaced. And so that's been my journey to it, and it's absolutely changed the baseline level of fulfillment I have in my life, despite, business success or relationship success or anything like that. It gives you a framework for an elevated sense of fulfillment, regardless of what's going on in the material world. But it's a real blessing for me.
Completely. My journey is a bit different than that. I actually grew up in the wisdom of Kabbalah. My grandfather founded the Kabbalah Center, and my parents run it today. And so, like any child, teenager, when you grow up in something, you want to run very far away from it when you're forced to do it, whether it's religion, your family values. So when I was in high school and college, I completely left. I don't want to say completely, but I wasn't connected to the path of Kabbalah in the sense that I wasn't excited about practicing the tools. I had no interest in going to the Kabbalah Center. I was kind of forced to go on the weekends, on Shabbat. But the rest of the time I was doing my own thing. And it took me 4 years of going to college. I was partying every weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, just having a fun time until I hit rock bottom. I was completely depressed. And I said, there has to be more to life. And so I tried other avenues of achieving fulfillment, instant gratification. None of that worked. And I said, okay, I'll go back to trying Kabbalah. That's the one thing that my parents have always told me. If this doesn't work, nothing will, but I'll try it one more time. And I remember that day for those of you who snowboard, I was on a snowboarding trip, got back home that night. I told my dad, I said, look, I'm very unhappy with my life. I'm open to studying Kabbalah. Where do I start? And he said, try doing one act that doesn't have to do with yourself every day, whether it's calling a friend who isn't, doing the best, whether it's being kind to people on the street. Just try one thing that doesn't have to do with who you are and being self-centered. And so I did that, and it grew into more and more, and I developed a little group that I would, support and talk to. And then things just started happening. I just graduated college. I was a personal trainer at the time. I was looking for, a more rewarding job. I got a job opportunity in California at a truck company, actually selling garbage trucks. It was when the electric boom was hot for a bit, so I was selling electric garbage trucks. Went on to start my own company today, but that entire journey would have been impossible without the tools. And I'm really happy actually that I hadn't always been involved in Kabbalah, because I think if I had, it's like, okay, his parents do it, his grandfather does it, of course he's going to do it. I had to go to a really dark place to find it and really appreciate it. And so in gathering all of you here today, I know we all have different lives, some good, some bad. And so I'd love if all of you could, kind of internalize and think about what your intention is for tonight, whether it's personal, whether it's relationships, whether it's business. And we'd love if some of you can participate. It'll be an open discussion today. We'll talk about challenges that Josh and I go through on a day to day. And then if there's anybody that wants to share something specific in their life that they're either dealing with today, just start thinking about it, and we'll call on you and you can join. But Josh, if you want to kind of share a bit, I know you, as you mentioned, you run a big company now. What are some challenges that you go through now, maybe that you weren't aware of prior to Kabbalah, but that you've used the tools to work through?
I shared a challenge at coffee on Friday. We do a coffee meetup every Friday in Sunset Harbor at Panther Coffee at around 8:30, 8:45 in the morning. So be there, come by. Always a good time, always deep conversation. So I'll give the broad brush, which is something that I've been working tremendously on over the past 4 or 5 years. For me, not to say that there wasn't a tremendous amount of effort when I initially built the business when I was younger, because there was, but it just felt at the time like I was able to achieve significant economic success very quickly. And relative to, I think, the amount I work today and the amount of effort and energy I put into it, it was almost nothing, right? And so as I ascended quickly, you get to a point where you don't grow at the same, when you start from nothing and then a year or two later you've achieved a tremendous amount of, let's say, economic success, business success, that rate of growth at some point starts to plateau, right? You've had 2 great years, 3 great years, 4 great years, whatever it is, the rate of growth starts to decline. And what about the years where you actually detract? Because there are those years as well. And so for me, before I got to the wisdom of Kabbalah, I couldn't understand why. Was it something I was doing? What's the reason? Why do I not continue to ascend? And this feeling that I was not good enough if I was not growing, and I was not good enough if I was not achieving similar levels of success year in, year out, was something that was beginning to eat away at me. And so through the work, through the wisdom, coming to realize that your soul, who you really are inside, is not defined by anything material, anything external. It's not defined by money. It's not defined by success. It's not defined by respect. It's not even defined by your relationship. Your relationship can elevate your soul, but you are pure. You are connected, and what's inside of you is that purity. And so how do you access that? How do you come to that? And so the specific example I'll give, which I shared with a few people that are here, is we're in the real estate business, and as I think many people here are familiar or in the business themselves, it's been a very tumultuous last couple of years in the commercial real estate business. Rates have gone crazy, values are all over the place. And we have, thank God, only, but it's still two assets in our portfolio currently of 18 assets that are challenged, that are in difficult straits. And we were on one in particular. We've been working on an extension, a modification with our senior lender on the deal to extend the loan out that comes due next month. And we thought we were making progress with them. I've been leading that conversation, right? So my ego is involved to a degree in that conversation because it's me personally leading that conversation. Thought we were making progress. The loan is due next month. We're waiting for the good news that they're willing to extend. And this week we get a letter, or last week I think it was, a letter saying that not only are we not willing to extend, we want to be paid off in full in 2 weeks when the loan matures. And the payoff is $17 million. Before the study, and even before maybe even the last years, even a year plus ago, I would not have been able to be in a place where when I received that letter, I legitimately became excited.
Really?
I legitimately became excited and said, this is an opportunity. And I don't know where this will lead, where this conversation will go, and frankly, whether we'll own the asset in 3 or 4 weeks, or whether it'll go back to the lender and we'll lose all of our equity investment. In this deal, our equity in the deal is about $11 million cash. Maybe we'll lose it. But this is a message. This is an opportunity. This is a challenge that I'm going to enjoy and embrace, because I have two choices. A year and a half ago, I would get that letter and I would go into a state of panic and retraction and come to a solution from a place of reactivity and panic and retraction. And I have to solve now, and what am I going to do, and who am I going to call? And through the wisdom and through the study, and it is continuous exposure to it, and not meant to be like an advertisement for, right, for Kabbalah or for the wisdom, but by continuously exposing yourself to the study, your consciousness shifts, your mindset shifts, and you're able to internalize challenge in a completely different framework and different way that just opens up a path to enjoying life, regardless of the physical reality in front of you. And for me, that's what I'm after. That's what makes me feel good more often than feeling bad. So what are the tools to get there? What do I have to do to get there? And my continued study, thank God, is giving me a path.
Yeah, I think that's such a great point. And bridging off that, Kabbalah isn't meant to give you everything you want right away. Your problems don't go away. What it does do is it gives you the tools and the resources to be able to overcome them. You still experience sadness, you still experience loneliness, you still experience pain, but when that feeling comes up, it doesn't last for 24 hours, it doesn't last for 5 days, it can go away in an instant. And that's the biggest thing that I've gained from it personally. I talked to many of my friends today, and some of them grew up Jewish, some of them grew up Christian, Muslim. The one thing that all remains the same is that we all experience pain in one form or another. And I've tried many other things, as I mentioned. The only thing to this day that's worked is Kabbalah. And to Josh's point, this isn't a paid advertisement. We don't make anything or benefit from it from sitting here with you guys today. And so on that point, I want somebody here, if anybody wants to volunteer, to share a challenge they're going through now. It can be anything. Wow, that was quick. Okay. Yes. Yeah, come up. Awesome. Tell us who you are, where you're from, and
my name is Yehiel. Don't feel bad if you butcher my name, it's all fine. So currently I'm working in sales on the weekends. I build a coaching business. I help people to lose weight. I coach them mentally and with nutrition and fitness, of course. And I also have an organization. We have over like 300 people that we do events for the young Jewish singers in Miami, Florida, South Florida.
Raise your hand.
Yeah, everyone is welcome to join afterwards. Don't worry, I'm going to give you a link. Anyway, it's very challenging.
This is a paid advertisement.
This is the setup.
Exactly.
I didn't think about it.
Sponsor of the event right here.
I didn't think about it. Honestly, you said like a challenge, and I'm also going to the Kabbalah Center for like almost a year. And like you said, you want to internalize it. You want to feel like you are enjoying yourself regardless of the outcome. You don't want to be dependent on an outcome to feel good about yourself. You know what I mean? And that's why to me, what I experience now is pain of both. I'm trying to do many different things. Sometimes feel like I'm burned out. But I wanted to ask you, like, how do you deal with that? Like, I have a lot of doubts, a lot of like, am I doing what I should do? Am I doing the right thing? Should I focus just on one thing and that's it? Or should I continue to divide my focus between different things? So that's my challenge, basically.
It's a great question. First, I would address the burnout elements of your question, because this is actually something that I've been thinking about a lot lately. There's this, culture around 24/7 on call, 24/7 work culture, right? You always have to be available, plugged in, responsive within 30 seconds. And to a degree, I understand, I think, the intention behind it, which is to be that you should be committed to your work and to your, putting energy into it. But I think that one of the things as it relates to burnout that I do specifically, or two things. Number one, it's having a morning routine that is extremely disciplined and can vary from time to time. But my morning routine, I wake up, and for the first hour, I'm in a meditation for 20 minutes. So I practiced transcendental meditation for about 8 years. Transcendental meditation for 20 minutes. And then I call it prayer or conversation out loud, basically, where I ask questions like the one you've just posed, which are, I'm not exactly sure if I should be pursuing 5 different things at this moment, or should I focus on one? And asking, Kabbalistically speaking, asking the life to show you, to provide you with clarity. And by consistently asking these questions that you feel within yourself, the answer comes to you. So there's not a right or wrong answer, and there's no, I don't think, any answer that we could prescribe that is the be-all, end-all. This is something that has to come from your truth and has to come from within. And I've found that starting the day, waking up from a pure place, meditation, and then spending 20 minutes, even sometimes 30 minutes, speaking about challenges or questions or things that I want clarity on, the answers begin to come. So I think that sort of answers both of your questions, which is one, to the burnout piece, obviously the morning routine, but taking time and space, right? Not being afraid to take a walk in the middle of the day for an hour, or even meditate in the middle of the day for another 20 minutes. To break up the day, and the energy of the day really provides a sense of balance, of space, and in that space, insights, creativity, ideas can come. And when you work, you don't allow the space for those to manifest in your consciousness. So that's how I would answer.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that is it's actually a quote from Jeff Bezos. I have a startup as well now, and I'm building it. And he said, stress comes from doing things that you shouldn't be doing. Stress doesn't come from hard work. And so to Josh's point and bridging off that, if you spend 8 hours a day focused, working, doing the right things, you have 16 other hours in the day to go to the gym, to spend time with friends, to enjoy life. Like building a great company, as I'm learning now, it doesn't come from just being in front of a computer 22 hours a day. You'll burn out, you'll be depressed, you'll be lonely. Spend 8 hours focused, take breaks in between, and be productive when you're working. So, yeah, beautiful.
Appreciate it. Thank you. I want to follow that point on with you, David. Because I don't think I never had the experience of actually starting a business from scratch with the benefit of having the wisdom and the tools sort of in my pocket. How has your Kabbalistic tools, spirituality, how has it informed the way that you're approaching building this new company, which is months old?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, completely. In every way. When hiring a new employee and looking at their resume, if I didn't have the tools or if I was just thinking objectively, I'd say, okay, are they a people person? Does the resume look good? Do they have a good track record? Now what I'm looking for is, okay, are they connected? Do they have good energy? Are they somebody that would be kind to other people? Will they work well in a team? So that'd be the first thing. When talking to customers, when building the product itself, many times you want to be reactive. For any of you that are building a company now or have been at a startup, it's the easiest place to be reactive. There's always something going wrong. You always want to yell at somebody. And so it's a big Kabbalistic teaching. And first, pausing before you take an action. It's the easiest thing to yell at somebody. It's the easiest thing to be reactive. And so not doing those things when there's a situation every day to do so have probably been the two greatest things. And then also when raising money and talking to investors, I don't pitch them solely on our product. I say, look, you're investing in myself. This is what I practice. This is how I apply spirituality to my business. If that's aligned with what you guys are doing, you're fun, and that's what you're looking to invest in, it'd probably be a good fit. So it isn't pure money. It isn't pure investment. There's something a little deeper than that.
And to that point, I would just add, because we also are in the business of raising funds. And by the way, how many people in the room either own their own business or are entrepreneurs or so really significant?
Wow, that's thrill.
Okay. So maybe this is relevant to many of you, but raising money, it's something many of us have to do. Well, even sales, generally speaking, right? And so I would just say that people can feel lack in your energy from so many different directions, even in an email, even in a text message. And what I mean by that is when you are making a sale, when you are looking to raise money from a place of, I need this sale for me, or I need this money or else, people feel that. Again, whether or not you are face-to-face with them, they could feel it through the text of your text message, through your email. And so a practice that I like to do often, but a consciousness that I like to get into is prior to the meeting, meditating on the person that I'm about to meet and really thinking about how can I help this person? How does what I have, the investment opportunity, the deal, the sale, how does that truly benefit them? And then share that from that place with them at the table, through the email, whatever the medium is. You will be astounded at, and the answer may be no, but the difference in response level, appreciation level, and just general relationship building when you come from a place of sharing, of giving, of truly working to identify consciously what the other person is looking for and how could you facilitate that? How can you become a channel to provide a solution for them? It's a game changer in business, in sales, and raising money.
Completely. Who here is in sales, by the way, or has been? So I think I was in sales for 6 years. Everybody's in sales. Whether you're in sales or you don't say you're in sales, you still are. Everybody hates salespeople, right? If you're on the buying side, if you're not, even if you're a salesperson, you probably don't like yourself. And the reason for that is because salespeople are notorious for looking to receive, looking to take, right? I want to sell you a product. They say, how can I help you? But really they're looking to take from you. And there's one quote that my grandfather would always say, and he said, when you can't take it anymore, start to give, right? How often do we say, I just can't take this anymore? And I've experienced this firsthand. When our lives are surrounding our own well-being and what we're doing in our lives, we're so focused on that it's like a magnifying glass on our problems, as to our successes, but also on our problems. Then as soon as you look out externally, start to help somebody else, start to have a conversation with somebody else, you're zooming out, your problems start to shrink, and then you're able to see life in a better, more optimistic perspective. So I think the salesperson analogy is very relevant to everything in life. But yes, I would say try not to focus too much on one factor of your life, and as soon as you experience lack or pain, look to somebody else and pivot from there.
But isn't it, you make the point, I think it's very interesting, and I wrote something about this recently, but the areas in which we spend the most time trying to analyze in our lives are the areas in which we have the greatest difficulties and problems. And the areas that we kind of let be and let go and let live are generally the areas that flow, that work, right? So I'll give another personal example. Relationships for me have never been something that I've worried about or got nervous. Am I going to find the right person? Am I not going to find? It's just not something I've consciously ever done. And so in my life, it's always been very natural. They flowed. I've had a few. When they didn't work out, they ended at the right time in retrospect. And I very naturally met my wife, like at the right time, the right place. Everything seemed to make sense. And, 6 years in, knock on wood, still seems to make a lot of sense. On the other hand, business and the portfolio and it's something I analyze and overanalyze and spend so much time trying to figure out why, when there's a little blip in the road, why is that happening and what did I do wrong and how can I change it? And that's the area in my life that brings me the greatest amount of stress and discomfort, right? So I say that to also bring up the element we talk about sharing and giving, but also the power in letting go and surrendering to a degree. And it's hard. It's hard to do, and it takes practice and continued learning. But to the ability that we're able to both, and it's paradoxical, but the wisdom is paradoxical in nature, to both push as hard as we can physically to manifest and to grow and to build, to share, but at the same time, know when we've hit that maximum and let it go in that space and allow, that's the magic. That's the magic. And it's so hard to do. I mean, I struggled tremendously with it. And it's the reason I'm so committed to the work. But it's such a powerful, powerful thing to chase. Really, really.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think whenever I come to different networking events or I go to seminars or I hear people talk, as I mentioned, I do a podcast, and essentially I'm asking people questions all the time. So I'm saying, what are things that you struggle with? What do you enjoy in life? And the common denominator between all successful people that I've spoken to is that they have a consistent routine. They do this no matter what, whether they feel good, whether they're sad, whether they're happy, they're consistent. And so I think that's a good opening to bridge to. Josh, if you could share some things that you do consistently aside from Kabbalah, right? Whether it's with your family and your daily life, and then maybe we can open it up and somebody can, share aspects of their life that they're consistent with.
Yeah. I heard a quote recently to that effect, which is, never bet against somebody who shows up every day. Right? And I think that's reasonable. It's the people who, when things get really tough, they look for a way out, they look for a quick exit, they stop showing up. Those are the people that don't push through to the other side. But if you're showing up every day, ultimately at some point you have no choice but to allow things to help you through to the other side. Maybe in a completely different way than you initially intended or thought, but that's okay. You'll get there. I mentioned before, in terms of my practice, I'm very disciplined and routine-oriented. Maybe it's a fault. Maybe there's some tikkun in there as well, for sure. I'm open to that possibility. I'm a Taurus.
Taurus, okay.
So, stubborn and disciplined with my routine. Wake up, 20-minute meditation,
20 to 25 minutes in prayer, some form of prayer, speaking out loud, asking for clarity, for guidance, for strength, for elevation of people in my life, which just sets the right tone for the day. You know, and a lot of times I will wake up, get out of the bed, go in and brush my teeth, and immediately start worrying about business-related things. A lot of the day. But when I do that and spend the next 45 to 50 minutes in that space, I feel good. I work out, I shower, I'm energized. I feel physically fit, mentally fit, and then it's to the office pretty much every day during the week. And then, you know, in the evenings, try to get home as early as possible, which is not always possible, to spend some time with the family. And then on the weekends, we talked about disconnecting to an extent before. I really try on Saturday and most of Sunday to just completely disconnect from business to the extent possible. Sometimes there are live deals and things going on, but it just helps reset. And you know what? I used to feel guilty for doing that. I used to feel guilty for taking vacations. And I still do, I think, honestly, if I'm being honest to an extent, like, it's my business. Why am I leaving? Is it going to be all right without, but no. You have to let go and let it be to an extent. So finding the balance between work and hustle and space and surrender, and that's something I want. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, I think, as I mentioned, I was a personal trainer for a couple of years, and I was coming from the angle of just wanting to look really good. I was always a really scrawny kid in school. They called me Slender Man throughout high school. And so that really got to me, and I ended up just like taking creatine and working out 6 times a week. Then I achieved a more natural and, balance with it. But I'd say working out every day. I'd say the spa. Josh is here. We live in the same building. We try to go to the spa every day. And so ice bath, steam room, those are just like really good things. Mentally, physically, you feel great. And then also, as I mentioned earlier, spending time, whether it's an hour, 30 minutes, in areas that aren't about yourself. Like, that's probably the greatest tool that I've received, that I've learned, that I practice, is just getting out of yourself. If it's going for a walk and talking to people in the park, if it's being friendly with people in your building, if it's calling a loved one, if it's calling a family member, just spend time on things that don't have to do with you. Because I'm telling you, when things are challenging, and I've also been a victim to this, and you spend it within yourself, everything is magnified. This sucks, your family's bad, your work's bad. It's like everything becomes bad. And then the flip side of that is everything's good. You're like, I just helped this person. You feel high, you feel full of energy, and everything kind of works itself out. So I would say that. And then I guess the next thing, which I want to ask you, and maybe somebody in the audience, is when things are like really challenging, and we all have these days when you wake up and it doesn't even make any sense. It just sucks, right? Like, you wake up in the morning, you're like, I don't feel good. My life is horrible. It's like, and there's no reason for it, right? So did anybody have a day like that this morning? I'll close up my part of it with that thought that Adib just shared with us. I'm also an Aquarius. Adib and I are only a couple days apart on the calendar. So it's a big thing for Aquarians, but I think for everybody, that we all have a desire to share with others, whether it's insecurities, whether it's we feel we don't have a platform to share, whether you think people aren't going to listen to you. I can say firsthand that I've experienced, I've had those thoughts, and then it only is when I break an insecurity or I go and do it anyways, that people are like, wow, that was so powerful, or wow, that was so impactful. And I'm like, really? I'm like, I didn't, like, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just saying something. And so I think, and I'll leave with that, it's that if you feel that you don't have a voice, if you feel that you aren't powerful, you aren't smart, you aren't intelligent, people don't want to hear what you have to say, all that's nonsense. And only by doing things that you are afraid of will you see who you really are and be able to impact people. And so I hope, if anything today, you can leave with that. This is the first of many events like this. Thank you, Billy and Arthur, very much.
Beautiful. I think we're going to wrap. I would just implore one question, honest curiosity. How many of us in the room here spend time daily or almost daily speaking out loud to the light, to the creator, in some form of prayer, out loud? So maybe a little less than half the room, just about half the room. So I would say for any issues of uncertainty, doubts, seeking clarity, just uplifting spirit, uplifting certainty and connection, starting this practice will dramatically change your life within a few days. Guaranteed. So in terms of a last word, I would just leave that tip. I started
this practice probably about a year ago, and I can tell you firsthand, there's an immediate and dramatic shift in your experience of life. So I would just highly recommend that to anybody that's already doing that. Yes.
Yeah.
Share another share. Let's do it. The hosts, everybody. Thank you.
So I guess I heard everybody's conversation, and we debate spirituality and business and fears and all that, but to truly understand what is really going on with yourself or around you, you really got to go deep, right? You got to start understanding how everything works, how energy works, how consciousness works. What are the secrets? I mean, we all say that, we got to wake up in the morning, we got to speak to the creator, we got to do this, we got to do that. But you really got to align to that. You got to really feel it. You have to experience life. In this experience, it's like a movie, right? And in every movie, we have our own movies, and we have our own feelings. But the bottom line is, pain is pain, right? We go through pain. And when you go through pain, you go through certain situations in life, use them as opportunities, right? And some situations are more difficult, some more easier, but it is pain, right? And I started Kabbalah about 6 years ago in New York City, and it took me, right? It became me. I became one. And to understand that, you have to really understand what this whole experience is about. You have to feel it. You cannot see it. Not just read it, you gotta experience it. And everything that we know, we really truly don't understand. Because, what we see around here is not really reality, right? And anything that you want to do in life, you could accomplish, but you gotta believe it. And most people, when they speak, they really don't mean what they say. And if you really laser focus on it, you get that insecurity, you see that feeling, and when you go into business meetings, when you went into you really could see everything. You could laser focus on the person, you could feel his vibrations, right? You could understand where your next move, if you want to go to do business with them, you don't want to go into business with them. And with jobs, you gotta build something, you gotta become it. You gotta fully become that idea, with certainty. And that's different. But if you do that, and you become whatever you want to become, and you truly feel it inside of you, people are going to accept your project or your business or your new opportunity, because honestly, guys, everything's been done. There's nothing that we're doing that somebody has not thought about it. But you could basically make it your own. That idea could become your idea, that could become your life, that could become your reality. And you can change your reality. I mean, as long as you start changing yourself, the old reality will leave and the new reality will come into your movie. Because it is a movie. Everything that we're trying to go through, and we do need the tools. Without the right tools, there's a system to this, you won't be able to understand what is going on with you and internally. And the most secret, I think, in my life, what I experience is your heart. It's love. It's aligning your heart and your consciousness as one. That's why to love somebody is really difficult, right? To really love somebody without an agenda, without you wanting something in return, just being there is really difficult. Because as humans, we always want something. We share. When's the creator going to give me triple that? It's not what it's about. If you do something, you do it because you want to do it. You want to do it out of love. And once we understand what life is about, what Kabbalah is about, it's a source of energy. It's like food, right? The more energy you get, the more hungry you get. So it becomes you. Same way you wake up in the morning, you eat, you study Kabbalah for some people. Some people study yoga. It's one system. We're all connected, right? And to truly understand yourself, you gotta go in all the way, 100%. If you don't, you'll never experience that true essence of yourself. That's it.
Beautiful.
Perfect way to end the night. Thank you, guys.
Thank you all for coming. For future events, Michael, who's here on the right, give him your number. He'll make sure to invite you. Please have a drink on your way out. Feel free to socialize, and thank you all for coming.